Okay, it's 10:02. Bill, do you think I can start? Can everyone hear me?
Can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I think we should start. It's 10:03. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on today's call. We really appreciate the opportunity to tell you more about our company and how we can assist you with grant application. If you have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to use the chat box. It is active now, or you can also use the emoji that shows the raised hand, and it's under the reactions. Oh, we have still a few more people joining. I will just admit them. So you can either put your questions in the chat box that we're going to answer at the end of the presentation, or use the hand raise that you can find in when you go on the top of the screen. You can go into more and then click on reactions. Okay, let's start. So today's speakers and the members of the Grant Solutions team are Bill Mallon, the Grant Solutions team leader, vice president in wastewater services; Jim Horvath, Grant Solutions project manager, wastewater services; Laura DePaul, Grant Solutions project manager, project administrator in wastewater and municipal services. And my name is Susanna Rees, and I work as a business development specialist. So a few things about our company. We have 50 years of experience serving municipalities and authorities and private clients. We are experienced with CFA and DCED grant process. We are a full service engineering firm. We have experience with the infrastructural projects, and we're serving our clients in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware.
So good morning, I'm Bill Mallon. We'll start with a little bit about our grant experience. We've completed numerous grant applications for different types of projects in different programs. You can see on the left-hand side some sewer wastewater projects. We've done control system upgrades, Township-wide Act 537 planning, storm sewer systems, general infrastructure rehabilitation, generators, traffic signal upgrades. Recent grants we've successfully obtained for clients include through the PA Small Water and Sewer Program, H2O PA program, and sewage facilities planning as well. And we currently have some grant applications out for clients in the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, Local Share Account Statewide Program, and the Traffic Signal Technology Program.
What we plan to cover. As you may be aware, there are numerous grants that are advertised each year by multiple agencies. Today's presentation will focus on the preparation of grants that are administered by the DCED and CFA. On the slide, there's an example of the single application application for assistance. What you see here on the slide is what you first see when you start the application. There are a variety of grant programs that focus on infrastructure. We'll be looking at the water, wastewater, and stormwater projects for the PA Small Water and Sewer, H2O PA, and the LSA statewide programs, and the Act 537 projects under the Sewage Facility Program.
So summary of how the programs work. So the grants become active from time to time through DCED. They aren't active every year. The current periods for the COVID-19 ARPA grants are from October 1st through December 21st. That's the due date of applications. So typical timeframes for the application are 75 to 120 days. Decisions don't come quickly. The Commonwealth Financing Authority is the entity that awards the grants. As an example, we submitted a LSA statewide application in March for one of our clients, and We're expecting to hear a decision on those applications in November, so an 8-month time period. One thing to keep in mind, given the long time frames, is if you've got a critical infrastructure project that you're looking for a grant for, that 8-month period might not fit in with your schedule. So keep that in mind when considering the types of projects that you want to obtain a grant for. The programs often require a local match, and it varies depending on the program. As you can see, PA Small Water and Sewer is a 15% match. H2OPA and Act 537 are 50%. The Hazard Mitigation Grant Program has a 25% match, but that portion is covered by PEMA, so there's actually no local out-of-pocket monies. The LSA statewide program has no match. The grant typically covers costs only after the award of the grant. So if you're looking for reimbursement for some soft costs, such as legal or engineering, you need to hold off starting any work on the project until you receive your grant award. The grants usually cover 2 fiscal years, which is July 1st through June 30th. So if you were to receive a grant today, for instance, the 2 fiscal years would be fiscal year 2024, which starts next July 1st, and fiscal year 2025. So your grant would expire June 30th, 2025. So it gives a good period of time in which to develop your project and not worry about time constraints. We'll next talk a little bit more about eligibility and eligible uses of funds.
The dates and frequencies of the grant programs can vary. Typical grants periods for some of the programs are listed on the slide. The typical grant periods range from September, October until December for the PA Small Water and H2O projects, January through March for the LSA grants, February through May for the sewage facility programs. The applications can be different from year to year, so it's good to monitor the website.
These grants are predominantly geared towards municipalities and municipal authorities, in addition to a wide range of other agencies, as you can see on the list on the left. Be aware that the COVID-19 ARPA is only offered for municipalities and authorities. These are mostly awarded to meet water, stormwater, sanitary sewer infrastructure, and flood mitigation needs for yourself or your clients. You can see the guidelines for additional eligible projects. For the COVID-19 ARPA grants, the project must be scoped to align to a single expenditure category. As you can see on the list on the slide, this information is taken from the American Recovery Plan Act compliance and reporting guidance for state and local fiscal recovery funds. This information is additionally included in the grant program guidelines. I'm going to highlight some of the important eligible uses of funds, most importantly, design and engineering costs and administrative costs. The engineering costs are often limited to 10% of the total grant, but additional engineering costs can be used for the local match, whereas the administrative costs are limited to only 2% of the total grant. Additional administrative costs cannot be used for the local match. Co-stars can be used for vendor selection, and the vendors must comply with the PA Prevailing Wage Act. If you're requesting the co-star quote, make sure you provide the appropriate wage rates.
So this is the heart of what we hope everyone takes away from our presentation today, and that's to be prepared. The grant programs come up from time to time. They don't come up every year. There are sometimes new programs that people aren't previously aware about. So we recommend you be prepared. have a list of your project needs, projects that you'd like to do, but maybe don't have local funds for at the ready, and aren't time critical as well, so that it's something that could be done in completed in a couple of years. Make sure you have your project costs assembled, what the construction cost may be for a specific project, and be prepared to fill in some of the other information required in the grant budget. Have a list of permits and approvals. You need to provide that with your application submission, and applicants that have permits in hand will score higher on project readiness. That's sometimes difficult because permits like an HOP from PennDOT or a permit from DEP expire after a certain period of time, and so it's difficult to know that you want to have your permit ready and hope that a grant program becomes active that you can submit for. Make sure you have your matching funds available. Important to note, for instance, for H2OPA, those grant programs go up to projects of $20 million in value. So if you have a multi-million-dollar project you're thinking of, keep in mind you need to have 50% of that money available. So if you had, say, a $2 million project, you have $1 million available to demonstrate for your local share. Always be familiar with the program guidelines. The guidelines are active on DCED's website, even if the grant program is not open. So you can at least look at what the guidelines were for the most recent program on the website. If you're looking for stormwater mitigation, there are additional requirements that you will find in the program guidelines. And one of the things that's required is a HEC-RAS study and some other information. And that's something that might not be able to be completed within the grant period. So that's something you might want to have completed in advance, so that if a grant program becomes active, you've got it ready and can submit it with your application. And go to the DCED website anytime. You can set up your account information, create your user ID and password, contact information, put your federal ID number in. Once that's saved, it's always there for that specific user ID. So you can use it to fill in immediately whenever you create a new grant application. This is an example of that account setting page from the single application of assistance. And you can see for a government entity, the information you can preload, whether you're an authority or municipality, for instance, your federal ID number, contact information, the individuals, phone numbers, emails, mailing address. So what you need. So again, and we'll say this a number of times, is always consult the grant guidelines. They're generally, the information is generally the same for the various programs, but does differ a little bit. So again, a list of your permits and approvals that you're going to need. Planning letter from your local planning agency. That's a letter that essentially is from the Planning Commission that says your project is consistent with existing comprehensive plans. You need a resolution from the government body, and always remember to coordinate meeting dates and designated parties, especially if you only have one meeting a month. You might find that there is only one meeting between when the grant program is active and when applications are due. For sewage facilities planning, you need a DEP approved Act 537 task activity report that usually requires a meeting with DEP. So that's something that needs to be set up as soon as the program becomes active. We always recommend letters of support from your state legislators and state senators. You'll need an ownership letter that you're going to be the owner of the project, matching fund letter that you've got the funds available, cost estimate for everything involved that goes into your grant budget. and some additional information. And as I mentioned again, for flood mitigation projects, there's even more information that's requested to demonstrate how your project is going to meet its goals. This is an example from grant guidelines for the resolution. A few things that we highlighted here are the requested amount. So once you put your grant budget together, that's the amount you're actually requesting for your grant. Project name, what you're calling your particular project, and the designated persons that are going to work with the Commonwealth Financing Authority to obtain the grant. This is key because whoever is going to submit that online application and do the electronic signature needs to be one of the designated persons there. So it can be your supervisors or authority chair, the manager or a consultant. We've done a number of grant applications where someone from Carroll Engineering is one of the designated people, so they can actually complete the application and do the electronic signature. Grant budget. So it's more than just putting a cost estimate together. This is a sample budget for a small sewage pump station rehabilitation. You'll see that there are two funding sources listed. So one is the grant funds. This case, it's the COVID-19 ARPA small water and sewer. And then the second is the local match. This case, it's identified as sewer capital reserve. There's a number of item categories that you can select to put your cost to. This one is pretty simple. Water and sewer is essentially the construction cost for the pump station rehabilitation, and it's split 85% for PA small water and sewer and the 15% for the local match. A couple other categories added in there: engineering and the sewer cap and inspections. As was mentioned, even though the engineering is only up to 10% of the grant amount, you put your full total in there because it does apply against your local match. And then everything is totaled up. Items in gray get calculated automatically, and white boxes is the information that you're putting in when you do your application. This is a little bit bigger budget for a hazard mitigation grant program application. There were some additional categories and it's a much larger project cost. This particular program allowed you to put in pre-award costs for developing some of the information you actually needed to prepare the grant application. It includes engineering and design. This particular project had a lot of easements that are going to be required. So there's site land acquisition there, as well as legal costs associated with that. In this particular instance, there was an actual construction category. So labor and materials and supplies is essentially combined, and that's your construction costs. And then there's restoration costs associated with the project. And you can see again, there's the hazard mitigation program portion of it, the 25% match. As I mentioned, that's covered by PEMA in this case, and the total. At the bottom is a little bit of a brief description from the budget narrative, and it essentially identifies what the particular cost categories in the table are for. So engineering design mentions field serving, stormwater design, permitting, legal costs for acquisition of easements, as an example.
What you will need for the COVID-19 ARPA programs. There are specific requirements for these programs because they are using federal funds. In addition to the regular requirements, the programs you will need a unique entity ID number from the federal system for award management. If you might have already had this from before, we've also heard that it's sometimes difficult to obtain. So we recommend that you start this as soon as you know you want to go after these programs. The link is actually right there. 2, you would need income demographics for the project area. The link is shown there and is also in the guidelines for the grants, and you search by the community name. You will also need the FAFA data sheet. You notice in that program, the competitions of officers, that does not apply to municipals or authorities, so you check the box. And this slide also requires signature from chief officials or the highest ranking officers, what can be a board of supervisors or the authority chairman. Other programs. DCED has around 125 programs available, including the ones we are discussing today. Here's a list of the additional programs we have listed on our website. We also will update this week frequently, so we want you to come to our website and visit it.
So what we can do, we continually send out notices when grant opportunities become active. As a designated official, we can do complete grant services. That includes not just preparing the supporting documentation that you need, but also creating and submitting online applications, including the electronic signature. If you have someone in your organization that is familiar with DCED grant process and the single application for assistance, we can provide the supporting information you need for your internal people to do the applications. So let us help you. Contact us at grants@carrollengineering.com, and we can get back to you to see how we can help you with your project. And as a recap, again, as we mentioned a number of times, get familiar with the program guidelines. The most recent, the guidelines for most recent grant programs are available to be downloaded from DCED's website, so you can always review them and be prepared when a particular program you're interested in becomes active. Make sure you have your project list so that you have things in mind to go after a grant when programs become active, and get your information set up on the DCE website so it's always there whenever you want to start a new application. Know what you need for the application, the different components, pieces of information you need to provide when you submit that application, and contact Carroll Engineering to see how we can help you.
So now we're turning to questions and answer. I would recommend everyone using the chat box or using the reactions emoji with raising your hand. However, if you have a problem with navigating it, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask questions. Throughout the presentation, I received one question directly to me that Tori asked, will the presentation be available? Yes, in upcoming days, both the session that is being recorded will be available through the YouTube link, as well as the PowerPoint presentation, so you can share it with your organization. Bill, we just got another question in the chat box.
Yeah, so I see that a question about cybersecurity grants becoming available. So I guess one of the takeaways from our session is that you never know when the programs are going to become active. The money for the grants comes from the Commonwealth Financing Authority. That's been funded by the state legislature. My recent experiences in the last half dozen years or so, the legislature has provided money to CFA. But prior to that, it probably was a half dozen or more years before there were grant programs available. The recent H2OPA and small water and sewer are funded by the ARPA COVID-19 funding. So that's a separate funding source. There are some programs that are self-funded through various statewide programs, such as local share accounts. There's a statewide program that's funded through, I think, horse racing. There are local share accounts in specific counties that are funded by casino revenue. And there are some programs that are funded by fracking monies. So it's not an exact answer to your question, but you know, as we said, we continue to monitor the when programs become active, and we recommend you do that as well, because there's no certainty as to when specific grant programs will become active.
Bill, we got one more question. I just put it in the chat box.
So I see there's another question, how BABA impacted any of the grants you are looking at. Is that a question that you got directly?
Yes, and I just pass it to the chat so everyone can see it.
Okay, so I'll be honest, that's something we have to look into. Any questions that we have, even the ones we answer today, will be posted on our website, the questions and answers, but we'll be happy to look into that and post additional information on the website to address the question.
I don't see anyone raising their hand. Anyone would like to take this moment to ask some questions before we move on? You can feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, I don't see anything, so I think we're gonna move on. Just as a final note, thank you so much for joining us today. We really look forward to working with you and help you assist with the grant application. If any questions come up after this session, feel free to email us at grants@carrollengineering.com or call us at 215-343-5700. As Laura mentioned, we are constantly updating the website, so you can stay updated on the new grants. So make sure to visit our website. I think I already mentioned that the session is recorded, so we're going to provide every attendee the link to the YouTube video, and as well as the PowerPoint copy, so you can share with your organization. We'll be sending the PowerPoint and the video on the email address that you provided with the registration. And I think that's all. Thank you so much for your attention.